So, if you ever worked on a long project, like a comic or a novel, you know that there's times where you just really want to be done and you think you are almost done. And that is what happened to me recently when working on Oven Mother issue number 2. Oven Mother is my surreal horror comic series, and I released issue number 1 back in August of 2025, and it was my first big project that I completed and released with other people. And really, when I started working on it, that was my goal, was to finish a big project. But the thing is the project was even bigger because when plotting the comic series, I planned out probably there to be about 9 or 10 issues in total. And I'm on number 2. But the exciting thing that I have to share is that issue number 2 is officially complete, and not only that, I have just sent it off to the printers. I'm very excited to share issue number 2, partly because of what I learned about not rushing the final steps. So about 2 or 3 weeks ago, I was at a point where, because usually the comic issues take me about 3/4 of a year to finish. A lot of times I'm working on other things in between there just because I sort of have the ADHD of not liking sticking with things for very long. So I would work on the comic, I'd work on other things. With this particular issue, I created a children's book, Little Red Riding Hood, a Two-Faced fairy tale, in between working on this comic. And then in December, I mostly stopped working on it because of the holidays, and it was sort of at a point where it was stressing me out again because I felt like I was inching closer to the finish line, but not so close that it seemed in reach. However, in January, I did end up getting a renewed spark, and I knew that about the end of 2025 to the beginning of 2026 was my goal at the latest to get the comic finished so that I would have it and be able to release it early this year. So I buckled down and was working on it pretty consistently for a number of time. Well, then I was sort of getting burnt out again. And there was a period where I really was about ready to send it off to the printers, or at least first I was going to have a couple beta readers read it and then send it off to the printers. But there was a couple things that were bugging me. And one thing in particular that I didn't love, and it didn't really occur to me until later in the process that I'm like, well, why did I make this decision? Because I know I don't really like this sort of thing. So, but I'm like, well, it's not a big deal. And the other thing I had in mind was a much bigger and more involved and was going to affect the plot. So I was just going to let it be. However, at the push of a few different sources, I finally decided to make the change, bite the bullet, as I would say, and redraw about half a page into a much, much more detailed scene. But also I ended up reworking and tweaking pretty much almost every spread of pages in the issue. And that was about 2 weeks of extra work that I didn't think I was going to have. But now that I've done that work, I can safely say that I am even more excited to share it with you guys. And I also got great feedback and some really interesting feedback from beta readers in terms of a particular question that they kept asking after reading the comic. And the thing is the question you should be asking. So I thought that was really cool. And it's something that's very important later on in the comic series. Really not much later. Things definitely, I feel like, move significantly in each issue. It's just doesn't feel that way sometimes because of the length of time it takes me to create the comic. Because if you didn't know, I plotted, I script each issue, and then I thumbnail, sketch, ink, base color and shade, and then do the typography in each issue, which I guess does sound like a lot, but I'm also not the quickest person when it comes to creating things. So I do apologize if you've read issue 1 and you've been anxiously waiting for issue 2, but it is coming very soon. As soon as I have my hands on the final books, I will be definitely putting them online immediately. And I'm also working on securing some shows, comic shows, and other kinds of markets that I will be at in the upcoming year so that you guys can get it in person. So yeah, it is very exciting, and I'm happy to share it. And another thing I have to share, if you give me 1 second, I have another thing to share. Oh dear, what is happening? I have the cover of Oven Mother number 2. I don't know if it'll be backwards in the final video, but cover. But yeah, I'm very excited. Like I said, I was definitely feeling sizzled out about it and not as excited about it for a period of time. But now that I've made a couple changes and the feedback I got from beta readers definitely makes me even more excited to get it into your guys' hands and so you can read it. And of course, I've already started a little bit of work on issue number 3. I usually do pretty quickly after I finish an issue, although again, sometimes I work on other things in between. I have some other story projects and other art projects that I am dabbling in and pursuing right now. One thing that I'm trying to prioritize, especially in this new year, is getting back to some activities that I used to enjoy that I was neglecting enjoying. Things like reading and a little bit of video games, trying to make time to really sketch, because I really enjoy sketching. I really enjoy sketching for just the purpose of sketching, but sometimes I go a long period of time without sketching, especially when working on the comic, because I feel like I need to work on the comic, but depending on what stage of the comic I'm in, there's really no drawing involved. Once the comic is inked, the majority of the work boils down to coloring, which sometimes is cool and sometimes it really is not that fun. Especially base coloring, I particularly don't enjoy, but it's part of the process. But yeah, if you haven't checked out issue number 1 of Oven Mother yet, it's available on my Big Cartel and on my eBay shop, which I'll link below. It has some psychological horror, some body horror, kind of exactly the sorts of things I like. Like, I like to pull inspiration a lot from video games. I love Silent Hill, love Evil Within, that sort of thing. And I love weird, absurd art. So that's what I've been making my whole life. And I think everybody should if they want to. So yeah, it's a project that is very near and dear to my heart. So I'd be excited if you wanted to check it out. There's also, because I almost forgot, you can read the first 10 pages of the first issue for free, which I will also link below to get an idea of whether you'd be interested or not. Yeah, I think that's mostly what I had to say. I would definitely learn from me, and if you're ever working on a project that something is bugging you, and you'll know, it's one of those things where I think especially as creatives, like, you know when something is off or underwhelming or doesn't match everything else, or maybe it just doesn't mesh with your beliefs as a person. Whatever it is, if it bothers you, just change it. Even if you procrastinate on changing it, you'll probably eventually end up changing it anyway, or you'll probably regret it later, because that's definitely what I was worried about with this issue. Is, you know, you only make a book once, you only release a particular issue of a comic once, and I knew that I wanted it to be the best that it could be. Even as tired of dealing and working on it as I wanted it to be the best it could be. So definitely learn from me in that sense, because I did procrastinate on it a lot before I finally changed it. But I think that is it for this video. Hopefully pretty soon I will be making more videos, sharing some more behind the scenes stuff. One thing I'd like to do is share the entire overall, at least an overview of the entire process of how I make these books, if you're interested in that. If you want to get updates on the books, I have a sign up for my email newsletter that you can join, and I share any updates I have about Oven Mother or other books or other projects that I'm working on, so definitely check that out. I do have an Instagram. I haven't been posting on as much lately because I feel like it was feeling more of a distraction than a benefit to my creativity, but I do have it, and I will be doing some posts as more info comes out about issue number 2 and places I'll be. I try to keep everybody updated on this kind of stuff, especially since such a period of time goes in between the issues. But yeah, I hope you enjoy the video, and thank you so much for watching, and I hope you check out and enjoy Oven Mother, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.